I am super excited to be here in Cincy for the first time. Um, Hopefully the weather will get better.
The Toronto ticketing database last week, a single Wednesday night seat blinked out of availability roughly 90 seconds after it appeared. Then another, then 2,000 more. Alexa had not even walked onto the court yet. She was at that moment a 21-year-old Filipina, seeded into the Canadian Open scheduled for a second-round match. The kind of match that in a normal WTA 1000-level week does not sell out anything, let alone a stadium. And yet, according to the tournament's own director, the entire Wednesday night session was gone in 30 minutes. Our stadium is 10,077 seats and tickets sold. And boom! It was sold out on Wednesday night. Volunteers who had been given seats had to trade them back for a different day. That single detail, one line in a news conference, one number spoken out loud, is the small object that this whole story turns on. Because today, August 15th, Eala walks onto a court in Cincinnati as the 17th seed. And the tournament director, who inherited a $260 million building, is now quietly doing the same math Toronto did. Here is what you need to hold in your head. 12 days ago on August 3rd, Eala beat the world number 3. Jessica Pegula from a set down 4-6, 6-4, 6 to love to win the DC Open, and her first WTA Tour title and the first ever won by a player from the Philippines. Savor this moment, Alex Eala. Applause. 4 days after that, in Toronto, she beat Alicia Parks and then Katie McKeon before losing in the round of 16 to Belinda Bencic 4-6. Love to 6.
Our stadium is 10,077 seats, and tickets sold, and boom, it was sold out on Wednesday.
Yeah, thank you. I know most of you guys were cheering for Alex, but I still have to say it was very nice for me to play. On the Monday after Toronto, the WTA rankings moved her to a career-high world number 20. She is the first Filipino man or woman to enter the top 20 in the modern era. That is the resume she carried into Cincinnati this week, into the newly transformed Lindner Family Tennis Center, into a first-round bye, into a second-round match today against Elena Gabriela Ruse of Romania. That is the on-court story. The off-course story is the one nobody outside a few tournament offices has been talking about, and it is the one this video is actually about. The word in the title of this video is demand. And it is important before we go any further to be honest about what that word means here. Alex Eala has not demanded anything of Bob Moran, the Cincinnati Open's tournament director. There is no leaked email, no backroom ultimatum, no fee dispute, no scheduling war. The demand is not a demand from her. The demand is a demand for her, measured in tickets sold, in resale prices, in the emails hitting box office inboxes, in the flags counted at gate scans, in the way an operational team decides which court a match will be played on, and at what hour of the day. That is what has, according to people who work in this world for a living, quietly stunned the operators of the Cincinnati Open. And to be fair to Bob Moran, who is on paper cast as the surprised institution in this story, he is not a man being ambushed. He is a man who spent the last 2 years telling anyone who would listen that this tournament wanted to become a global 2-week experience on par with the majors. He raised the money. He oversaw the campus expansion, doubling the site to more than 40 acres, adding a 56,000-square FT player center, 31 courts, and a redesigned fan campus. His public brief as recently as this year's field reveal was that Cincinnati was ready to welcome, in his words, the world's best players. What Moran did not necessarily plan for is that one of those players would arrive carrying an audience the tournament had never sold to before. Let's walk through what actually happened in Toronto because it is the only place where the tournament industry side of this phenomenon has been publicly documented, and it is the template. Cincinnati is now in real-time updating for its own use. Toronto's tournament director, Carl Hale, said in a news conference that when the ticketing team began flagging inbound requests for Eala's schedule before the draw was even out, the volume was unusual enough to force a conversation about court assignment. This is not fan folklore. This is hail on the record telling reporters, including The Athletic, that a sellout Wednesday night this early in a tournament is, in his phrasing, really unheard of. That is the first data point. The second data point is quieter and in some ways more revealing. According to The Athletic's reporting, the person inside the Canadian Open who first noticed the pattern and escalated it was Jason Mimlante, Tennis Canada's head of ticketing, who is himself of Filipino heritage. He had been hearing directly from members of the Toronto Filipino diaspora who were tracking Eala's results and asking when, not if, but when she would play. That is a specific operational detail that almost no one outside the tournament's back office would ever know. And it matters because it tells you that this surge is not something that happens to a tournament by accident. It gets noticed first by the person whose job it is to notice, and it gets acted on before the general public ever sees a schedule. The third data point is the tournament's on-the-day response. In Toronto, they chose to put Eala on center court on Wednesday night. Grandstand, the venue that would normally host a second-round match of an unseeded pair, was not enough. And by the time the gates opened, according to reporting on the ground, the concourses looked less like an early week WTA session and more like a final. There were Philippine flags at nearly every turn. One food vendor swapped a chicken teriyaki bowl for a chicken adobo option, a small operational detail that is genuinely more telling than most highlight packages. Tournaments do not change menus for 17th seeds. They change menus when their internal data tells them a new audience has arrived. Now bring that pattern to Cincinnati. The Lindner Family Tennis Center is not the venue it was 2 years ago. BMUC Sports and Entertainment, the company Moran leads, invested $260 million. That figure is confirmed by the ATP Tour, by Barton Mallow, the construction firm involved, and by the Cincinnati Open's own campus transformation page. The stated goal was scale, more courts, more players, a longer main draw, a tournament that behaves commercially and experientially like a fifth slam. That is the argument Moran has been making publicly for 2 years. And here is the quiet part, the part that lives behind the curtain. For that argument to work, Cincinnati needs to prove that the expansion has expanded the audience. Not just deepened the existing one, expanded it. A new demographic, a new market, ideally a global one, which is more or less the exact demographic that has been showing up at Alex Eala's matches for the last 4 weeks. Take a breath here, because it is worth naming what the on-court story looks like alongside the off-court one. Eala arrived in Cincinnati having posted a 71 record on North American hard courts this summer. She has a first-round bye. Her second-round match today is against Rose, who is ranked at a career high of